Variety magazine calls it a mishmash of violence, psychodrama, and lukewarm kiddie comedy. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times says it's made up of parts that shouldn't fit, but somehow they do, making a slick entertainment out of the improbable, the impossible, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And about its straight-to-VOD sequel, Amazon user Josh says, "Y'all, this was terrible." On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of Kindergarten Cop.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be?
It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters. It's Ruined Childhoods. It's your boy Dan, here with my bro, John.
It's your boy Dan.
That's a new one.
Yeah. I never heard that before.
I don't plan these out. Beyond Greetings, Starfighter, it's kind of like I'm like a pilot taking off into the fog.
And you planned that out like a year and a half ago.
Greetings, Starfighter.
So there's been no new planning out.
No.
Yeah.
Greetings. I mean, that's just laid in there. That's the,
That's what we do.
That's who we are. It's what we do. But after that, it's just kind of whatever comes out of my mouth. Whatever words, I call it water slide brain. It's kind of like when whatever words happen up in your head, they're like on the water slide. There's no friction. There's nothing holding them back. And they're just going whoosh right down out the mouth.
And this time it's your boy Dan.
It's your boy Dan. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Welcome to Ruined Childhoods, the podcast where we watch cult, classic, whatever movies, and we discuss the theories that we have, the concepts that we create about what we would do with those, whether it be a prequel, a sequel, a reboot, a stage adaptation,
A series.
Whatever you can think of. We talk about what they could possibly be nowadays.
And what we would prefer, what we as fans would prefer.
And boy, oh boy, are we fans of the movie that we're talking about on this episode.
So much.
You see it on your podcast app. You're reading it in the description. We're talking Kindergarten Cop today, but I've got one more thing for the cutting edge.
Go for it.
I think I talked to you about this off mic, but what we didn't discuss was the kind of unofficial parody of this movie, which is Blades of Glory.
Yes.
And
a fine film.
Even down, Blades of Glory is great. It's so funny, but even down to like the final move that they may or may not do, which is essentially the Pamchenko.
But like
the one person grabs the other by the feet and they spin them around and lift them up and down and then let go, and then they like. Well, this is a Blades of Glory thing. I don't know if this is what the Pamchenko does, but they like spin around and the blade goes like really close underneath the person's head, right against their throat pretty much. And had only been attempted one time in North Korea, and it decapitated the participant. So it's chef's kiss. Beautiful.
I feel like the danger in the Pamchenko is that if you are the swinger, you run the risk of smashing the swingy's head like like you are Gallagher and that head is a watermelon. Like just against, and the ice is your sledgehammer. Like,
well, I have to say, I don't think I've laughed harder at any of our podcast stuff as I did when I was editing our last episode with Millie De Chirico, who's curating our month of films. And
thank you to Millie.
And Millie is so funny. I just really had such a good time. And after we recorded, I listened to the Dan and Dave, 30 for 30 podcast, and Oh man, there's so much about that I forgot or like didn't even know, and it's just amazing. I'm so glad that came up.
You never know. Like, you never know where it's going to take us with these movies, and especially with The Cutting Edge. And Millie's love for that movie was contagious. I felt like,
yeah,
I honestly went into the recording kind of in a different frame of mind. And once we started talking about it, I was enjoying it so much that I didn't have any of my like, well, about this. Like, it was all just gone. And really fun conversation.
Yeah, I considered in tweeting about it actually calling out DB Sweeney by name, but I don't think that he would have appreciated being called Droopy Paul Rudd. So I decided to not tag him.
You know, it's a compliment. Any type of Paul Rudd is a compliment.
That is true, but droopy anything is, that one kind of hurts.
What am I supposed to then? Then you know what?
know.
I'll call Paul Rudd the Nip Tuck DB Sweeney, and we're good to go.
Fair enough.
Done.
There we go. So, do you have one more things for Cutting Edge?
Only that what I forgot to mention in my proposal for the Baz Luhrmann Cutting Edge, which I proposed as a film, not as a stage musical, but you never know. I forgot to mention the possibility, and this is kind of cliche, but a what if your skaters, your Doug and Kate, if you will, were one was Israeli and the other Palestinian.
Oh.
And what if this and
Intriguing.
this is like, you know, we got to find harmony here before someone loses a head.
Very interesting.
It like in Blades of Glory. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
And I by the way, I'm not going to go back to it other than to say this. My mind is still in that like Ishtar like break.
I was just gonna guess. Are you thinking of Ishtar still?
There are still things that I'm looking more closely into that we discussed about Ishtar that I just would love to sit down with Elaine May. And it's rare. Like, I usually am not. I fear having discussions with people I admire greatly because I fear not having anything to say or having water slide brain.
Oh yeah,
which is what happened. I met President Clinton, and this was through my wife, who was working for the Clinton Foundation at the time, and she was working on the commitments team, and he mentioned something about the movie Commitments and the fact that that I was standing there and really had not much to discuss with President Clinton, you know, in that setting. And then he brought up a movie, and it was like the floodgates were opened. I was like, oh, that's a great movie. We can watch that. It's on Netflix. Let's go. I'd not him.
You see,
I didn't invite President Clinton.
I thought that where you were going with this was going to be about Primary Colors.
Oh, well, there's your Elaine May connection. Wonderful.
Right. That's where I thought you were
No.
going with this.
It wasn't that relevant. No, but Elaine May, I feel like I could sit down with Elaine May for an hour and talk to her about Ishtar and only Ishtar, and I would not run out of questions.
Well, Elaine May, if you are listening, ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com. Let's get it going. Let's make this happen.
There is so much I want to know.
Well, what I want to say about Ishtar is that it's definitely giving me a lot to think about in terms of what my favorite Charles Grodin performance is, because I love Charles Grodin. Midnight Run. I'm a big Clifford fan. He's great in Dave. Like, and those are some of those like the lower
Lonely
tier
Guy
things that he's done. Well, and that's the thing is I really want to. I don't know if I've ever seen The Heartbreak Kid. I've watched like the trailer for it, but now I'm like, Charles Grodin plus Elaine May, I know I like.
I've never seen it either. Ishtar is the only Elaine May directed film that I have seen.
We're adding it to the list.
I mean, I've added all of her films to my to-do list.
Right on. Well, may as well make it
May
homework.
as well. it being the month of May.
I know.
Though-
well, and
Yes.
no, go on.
I was going to segue. Are you ready?
Please.
And it is very appropriately today National Teacher Appreciation Day. I don't know if it's national or international, but
Yeah, we're recording this
yes.
a week before this is
Yes,
coming
we are
out.
recording this on, so perhaps it might have been slightly more appropriate for us to have had this episode come out today, but it is what it is. But it feels good that we're recording it today because it is National Teacher Appreciation Day, and
Dan, you are a teacher,
I am. That's not why I brought this up, by the way.
but it's information.
It is. It is information. I'm a teacher, and I do keep with me on my desk. I had a couple of students a couple of months ago while we were in school. They brought me this little like chocolate apple. Said number one teacher, and
Wow. How do you make an apple the opposite of healthy? Make it out of chocolate.
and wrap it in foil and let it sit on a supermarket. No, but you may have noticed I haven't eaten it because it means much more to me as kind of a memento and a reminder of why I'm doing this. And so this is a great opportunity right now for me I want to shout out all the teachers out there. Like, everyone's got challenges right now, whether you are a classroom teacher who isn't familiar with a lot of the tech tools that we're now kind of required to use, and you're figuring it out and you're teaching yourself and you're learning that. That's awesome. Keep doing it. I've been dabbling in some, experimenting with different things digitally myself, and I think it's so rewarding. There's those teachers like me who also have kids at home that they're trying to, work. We care for their education as well, but now the times of the day that we devote to caring about the education of other people's kids and our own are all interwoven. So I'm responding to messages from my high school students while I'm teaching my kindergarten students, aka my daughter and her friend.
Right. Yes. I mean, very appropriate that you are currently a part-time kindergarten surrogate teacher.
I am so feeling this movie right now.
Yeah. It's kind of perfect timing to be covering this one. And when Millie put this on her list of suggestions for us for this month, it was like, well, we're definitely doing Kindergarten Cop.
Yes. And for reasons that I'll get into after we hear the synopsis, I am just so in sync with this movie these days. Not because I am hunting an elusive drug kingpin with an alliterative name, but because, as John said, I am a part-time kindergarten teacher, but I am a full-time high school teacher, and there is a reason why I teach high school.
Yeah.
So
you've teed it up. Shall I go into the synopsis?
Yeah, but just one last shout out. If you get raise a drink to the teachers that everyone's working hard right now, but teachers, man, you're always putting it out there, and what you're doing right now is keeping the machine running. So I'm gonna keep it up on my end. You keep it up on your end, John.
Yeah.
Synopsis.
Undercover cop John Kimball has been trying to bust drug kingpin Cullen Crisp for 4 years. And after a junkie witness can testify that Crisp murdered her boyfriend, Kimball finally has a way to get him behind bars. That leaves a major loose end. Crisp has an ex-wife and son who disappeared years prior, and intel suggests that they're in Astoria, Oregon, and his son is in kindergarten at Astoria Elementary. Kimball is paired up with Phoebe, a cop who happens to be a former kindergarten teacher. They'll go to Astoria together. She'll try to find the kid, while Kimball finds the ex. After Phoebe is faced with a bout of food poisoning, Kimball is faced with no option but to switch roles and pose as a substitute kindergarten teacher. While trying to figure out which kid is Crisp's son, Kimball learns how to be an ally to 6-year-olds, make nice with school administration, and even fall for the teacher down the hall whose kid happens to be in his class. Over a few days, and dates, Kimball concludes that the woman he's dating is Crisp's ex, and he's out of prison and on his way to come get his kid. Not on Kimball's watch. So that's my synopsis. As always, leaving out a lot of key points, but that's the general thing that's going on. Dan, I'm trying to think of really what to cover next because there's so much. Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger plays John Kimball. We can start there. Penelope Ann Miller plays Joyce, his love interest. What's the guy's name who plays Chris?
Richard Tyson of 3 O'Clock
Richard
High.
Tyson. That's right. Oh my God, I did not even realize that was him.
That's the one other thing that I could definitely.
I was going
remember
through
him
on, like on IMDb, there's like photos of the person, like the actor or whatever that you're looking at, and I was flipping through, and it's a lot of like DVD cover art or whatever, and it's a lot of like him in like a very provocative situation with a woman. That's what most of them are. Also want to do a big shout out to Linda Hunt, who plays the principal, who's so good.
Oh, Linda Hunt is great. I love the scene after Arnold hits the abusive father.
Yeah, there's one. So there's a kid in the class who he suspects might be Crisp's kid because he's, he keeps to himself. He doesn't talk to anybody. He's clearly got emotional issues. But then it's discovered.
Not for nothing, though. The kids treat him like shit. Like, they call him a poo-poo head.
Oh, totally. Oh, I'm not letting them off the hook. But what I'm saying is, like, it makes a lot of sense that he might suspect that this is the kid. But then when he finally confronts the mother, it becomes very obvious that the kid's father beats him. And man, oh man, does he give him a nice little sock to the gut. And the scene where Kimball is with the principal and he's like apologizing and saying it won't happen again, she's like, how did it feel to hit that son of a bitch?
The way she says that line is wonderful.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have hit the man, especially in front of the children. It was a mistake.
I checked you out. There is no record of you ever having taught at any public school in California or anywhere else. Mr. Kimball, you have no teaching experience whatsoever, do you?
Someone finally noticed.
I thought the introduction of a ferret was a horrible idea, but the children seemed to like it. I thought the use of your police whistle was outrageous, but...
It's all I could think of.
Please, allow me to finish.
Sorry.
But it worked. I have no idea what kind of police officer you are, but you're a very good teacher.
Thank you.
Now, will you tell me something? Don't lie. What did it feel like to hit that son of a bitch?
It felt great.
Well, tomorrow morning, bright and early.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And when he leaves and she does that little punch in the air, it's so satisfying.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's so funny. There's so many like logic holes in this movie, and yes, you have to. Yes, part of it is remembering that this is made in like 1990. So
yeah,
like a lot of things have changed about schools since then.
Totally.
Although I will say, having visited Astoria, Oregon, and having been to Astoria Elementary, not inside, of course.
It's John Jacob Astor Elementary, I believe.
Oh, yes.
But in the movie, it's
yes.
Astoria Elementary, yeah.
Yes, no. It looks the same.
Yeah.
I was there. I want to say
It's a historic
4 years ago.
landmark as far as we're concerned.
Well, I mean, it's crazy because also, like, you know, the Goonies was shot there, parts of Short Circuit. You go back and you go there, and there are certain spots where you're just like, yes, that is exactly what,
Just
like
frozen in time.
where Chunk's at like the pizza shop and he's at the arcade when the cops are chasing the Fratellis in the beginning. I mean, like, we were just kind of going past. I was like, that is exactly where Chunk like, puts the pizza slice up against the window.
Right.
So yeah, so it's pretty cool, and I'll post that picture on Instagram.
Yeah.
At Ruined Childhoods Pod. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, a big shout out to Pamela Reed, who plays Phoebe, the partner. She's so good in this.
I love Pamela Reed.
Pamela Reed is so good, and her fiance in this is played by Bob Nelson of Brain Donors.
Yes.
So that's a big one for us.
And another one of my favorite actresses who's in this, when Kimball and Phoebe are on the flight to Oregon, the concerned stewardess is none other than, and I almost said Dame because that's how highly I think of her, Angela Bassett. Dame,
That's
fuck
right.
it, I'm just gonna do it. Dame Angela Bassett.
Yeah. Well, so also Penelope Ann Miller is awesome as Joyce, the ex of Crisp and the love interest of Kimball. She's amazing.
It's a
and she's so
well-cast
perfect
movie.
in this. Yeah. We've got Kathy Moriarty as the like sultry single mom who's like, I don't know.
I don't bake cakes and cookies, so I thought
She brings like a pony.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
How did she get the pony
so
there?
There's so many weird things about that I just don't want to know.
Yeah.
Also, stealing the show, we have Miko Hughes and Sarah Rose Carr as not even the main kid in the class, but they're like just kids in the class, and they steal the show.
Yeah, but Miko Hughes, like, of all, and there were a lot of lines from this movie.
Pet Cemetery's Miko Hughes, but yeah, he's this
Mercury Rising's
shrimpy
Miko
little kid.
Hughes.
I mean, he really had a good like 5 years where he was just like killing it.
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
But Sarah Rose Carr, who plays Emma, is just like, she's so memorable and she plays her role like so naturally.
I'm not a policeman, I'm a princess.
Yeah, and like the scene where she has to go to the bathroom and can't unbuckle her thing, and it's just like, that just feels so real.
My dad works on computers, and he's the boss of his company. And he has a mustache and a beard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he doesn't have that much hair, and his head is so big that he can't wear any hats.
John, so much of this movie, as I was watching it, despite the like major logic holes, there is a lot of this that rings very true. Like when he goes running out of the school on his first day and just screams.
Mm-hmm.
There's a point in almost every morning where I have felt that way.
Oh my God.
Maybe not every morning, but like a lot. Well, it's a lot. So I totally felt it. I have a whistle that I use. When I taught middle school, they part of like my, okay, here's some supplies. Here's a whistle. Like, oh, why do you need a whistle? You teach in middle school.
Police school.
Police school. Oh man, I've tried it. And there's so many times because like these kids, like they have a tendency to be like, they can be really whiny and they do this thing. Wah, and I was like, you kids are soft. You lack discipline.
Yeah. Just a couple other people I want to mention in this. So it's directed by Ivan Reitman. Director Jason Reitman plays the kid in the fire scene at the end who's smooching on some girl thinking that it's a fire drill.
Yeah, that's a fun way to like, oh, Dad, can I be in your movie? Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. You get to make out I'm going to direct you. You still want to be in it?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
So-
more shout outs?
Oh, no, that was pretty much it for the shout outs.
How about Carol Baker?
That's right.
As Eleanor Crisp, Crisp's mother of the Crisp drug empire.
And that's perfectly segueing into what I'm about to talk about. So they have a very bizarre dynamic, the two of them.
You think?
And yeah, I do think, Dan.
Huh? What
How about
tells
that?
you-
Yeah.
What
well,
tells you?
so there's like a very bizarre pseudo like Munchausen by proxy situation going on when she's at like the pharmacy in Astoria getting all this like children's medicine for when they kidnap his son. And he's like, what do you need all this stuff for? You used to like, load all this stuff with me when I was a kid and I never got sick. And she's like, that's my point exactly. So it's like, what happened? What was going on?
There's a lot of backstory there.
Yeah. And clearly the Munchausen by proxy thing is very different because he knows he wasn't sick. She was just medicating him. But yeah, their dynamic is really, really twisted. And that's a whole other movie. Just the two of them.
Yes. Yeah.
The whole thing about Crisp getting his kid back, it really makes me wonder, like, what is it? Why is it really that he wants his kid? Is it just a matter of principle that he has his kid back because she took him away from him?
Well,
So there was a whole thing at the beginning that's all about how she took $3 million from him and disappeared. And then we find out later that that was a lie that that Crisp told in order to entice people to get information about where they are, thinking that they could get some money for it. Mm-hmm. I think that's what the situation was.
Yeah, yeah.
But there really was no money.
Right. Which you think, I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe, yeah. I mean, it's not like they could really track that. Yeah, so like everyone's after her. And
right. So the movie really starts with, they're at this shopping mall and this like scuzzy junkie guy and his junkie girlfriend, the aforementioned junkie witness, are meeting Crisp like in a weird storage area, and he is trying to sell him information. And he basically just tells him that he saw the ex-wife in, as he says, Oregon, but he is corrected in that it is Oregon.
yes.
Which, as somebody who lives in Oregon but grew up not knowing how to properly pronounce it, because I think that information just didn't travel to New Jersey.
It's because
until
when we
recently.
were in elementary school and we were told to play the Oregon Trail, it was pronounced Oregon Trail, and thus it was done.
Yeah, and now everybody's realizing like, oh no, that's not what it's called? Okay.
Nevada.
So right, so he finds out that they're in Astoria, and he just shoots the guy.
And it actually brings me to a point that I want to bring up. So in reading I was reading a lot of the reviews and critiques, and there's a lot about like, oh, well, it being a kid's movie, and like, oh, well, this is, it's very violent for a kid's movie. It's rated PG-13. Meaning,
it's not a kid's movie.
It is not for young kids. It's for kids who, like me, were, tweens. I was 13 when the movie came out. Rode my bike into town to the Cranford Twin.
Oh, okay.
I remember it had snowed. There was snow on the ground. It was not
Right, this came
snowing.
out December, I believe.
Yeah. And I must have gone like opening weekend, took my matinee money, like whatever, $4.
Uh-huh.
And went and saw Kindergarten Cop.
I mean, I know that I must have seen this really, really young. And I think that the violence and all of the drug stuff just didn't register for me. Either that or it did, and that's why I am the way I am today.
Well,
but and by that I mean a huge Kindergarten Cop fan.
Yes, exactly. Kindergarten Cop. Oh, I have another actor shout out.
Oh, yes?
Before I forget, sorry, feels just in there that we're in there, but let's not forget Lowell, the child who asks, who's obsessed with death and thinks Arnold's headache is due. That's Ross Malinger of Sleepless in Seattle. It's the kid who plays Tom Hanks' son in Sleepless in Seattle. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, yeah, way to go, Ross Malinger.
That kid always reminded me of Scott, our brother.
Oh, yeah. He definitely has a Scottish quality.
They had a similar look.
Not Scottish like from Scotland, but like Scott.
Right. You know, ish.
Scott-esque.
Yeah.
Scott-esque. There we go.
There you go. But no, it's a really lovely movie. No matter, I think that whatever age you are, it totally works. And even the violence isn't extremely aggressive. The drug stuff isn't extremely aggressive.
No, but it's, I was reading, as I often do in the IMDb trivia, that Arnold felt that the movie would have made more money had there been less violence, but Ivan Reitman felt that without the especially like the end, I think they were really talking about like the violence towards the end in the school. And Ivan Reitman was like, well, but you kind of need that. Like, that's the climax. That's the, we're chasing down a violent drug dealer.
Sure. Yeah.
Or I think he's a drug dealer. I've always assumed that, probably because of the ponytail.
He's not a dealer. He's a
supplier.
He's a supplier.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Got it. Oh, and that ponytail. Wow.
It's a magnificent ponytail.
It's quite the ponytail.
It screams 1990.
Yeah. So Dan, I have to know, have you watched the sequel, Kindergarten Cop 2?
I have not. No, but you have?
I did the other day, and holy moly. All right, so it came out in, I think, 2016. It was straight to streaming, and it stars Dolph Lundgren as an FBI agent, and this all takes place in Seattle. So he is an FBI agent who's trying to bust this, like, Armenian mafia, I don't know, like, bigwig kind of guy.
Yeah, we have a lot of those in Seattle. A lot of Armenian mafia bigwigs.
So it starts off because they had this guy in custody who was trying to sell somebody the FBI witness protection database.
Oh.
Yes. And the Armenian mafia had killed his friend who had the list, and they were coming after him. And his friend was a kindergarten teacher at a hoity-toity, very progressive school.
Okay.
And yes, so the idea was that he would go undercover as the kindergarten teacher, the new kindergarten teacher, to find the flash drive that had the information on it. And of course, the school is extremely liberal and he is not. And they try to make this point that liberal ideals and progressive ideals and naming your kids hippy dippy things and solving problems using logic and discussion is for sissies. And there's like a whole thing about how like he can't say Indian style anymore. It's crisscross applesauce, and he can't use the R word when talking about how he thinks something is not the way he would want to do it. We'll just put it that way. And what they end up doing is proving the opposite, the value in all of that stuff. But I'm pretty sure that they tried to make the opposite point.
You think they were trying to make the opposite point?
They had this like progressive school as a way of like, it's in a form of mockery.
Mocking.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's interesting because I feel like it's almost contradictory to what he does in the original Kindergarten Cop
by turning him into the police.
Well, even though he turns them into the police, but what
he doesn't turn them into the police.
No, he doesn't turn them into police. Yeah. He gives them structure because they need it. Like, and this is as So now we get the teacher take on it, because I'm sure I've watched this movie like at least once, probably twice since I've started teaching. But what I've really like come to understand and learn is that like really the most successful teachers are teachers who are, they're genuine, and they also have a system in their classroom, and it's their system. Like, you can get lesson plans online. You can get lesson plans from people. I always had a lot more trouble. I would feel better, and I would have a better day going in without a plan and just knowing like, all right, I got to get them to do this today and I'll figure it out, rather than trying to use other people's plans and not at least just taking the content and making it your own. You're setting yourself up for failure if you're just trying to do what somebody else did. And we all go into other teachers' classrooms and see the amazing things they do. But they're amazing because they're what that person does.
Yeah.
Yes. So, in my class, there's a lot more movie references. Big surprise.
Go figure.
But that's how I can that's how I can relate things. And usually it's, the trouble is finding movies that I feel like my students have mostly seen. Cause I keep like, all right, raise your hand if you've seen Altman's The Last Goodbye.
Yeah.
Raise your hand anytime.
Ooh,
me. Yeah, John, cause yeah, right. So, and I think like what he's successful once he goes in and he's like, okay, this is what I know, and this is kind of what works for me, and how do I adapt this to kindergarten? So it's really just taking it and taking what he would normally do if he was training police officers and just scaling it down and saying, okay, well, so rather than running an emergency drill or something, we run a fire drill and I bang on the little bell. And we do that. And, but he also, the other side of it is he puts on the straw hat and strums the ukulele and does the old McDonald
totally.
while Emma does the hula.
No, yeah. That's why the original Kindergarten Cop works. And it's also why nobody has seen Kindergarten Cop 2 except me. And it's missing that element. It's missing the understanding element, which I can't even really put my finger on where Kindergarten Cop 2 went completely wrong. But it's just like they watched Kindergarten Cop once and were just like, all right, got it. Let's go make ours now. And just completely scrambled trying to figure it out. And the other thing is that Dolph Lundgren is 60 and he starts like dating a 25-year-old. And it is bizarre. It's pretty icky. It's like he is clearly very 60. Yeah. Also, he has an obsession with Twix candy bars. That's kind of a running thing in the movie. It's his vice. So they must have given some money.
Does he do like the left side, right side thing?
Nope. He just likes Twix a whole lot. That's all. I don't know. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre.
I like Twix. Why not?
Yeah, and I believe that they approached Arnold Schwarzenegger to do a cameo, but his schedule wouldn't allow it. But I think that's more of an in quotes situation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, although at that, I'm trying to think if he would have been working on Terminator Genesis around that time.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I know.
We don't know exactly what was happening at exactly what time.
Yeah.
But if I were in any way associated with the original Kindergarten Cop and someone approached me about being part of Kindergarten Cop 2 and I saw that script, I'd be like, my schedule is really crazy right now.
It's like they got the woman who plays Miss Schlowski's assistant and they brought her back.
Right.
And she's like, oh, I worked at a school once where something like this happened and shit got crazy.
I know. So Miss Schlowski's assistant, who looks like she is plucked out of the 60s, she's kind of going for that like a retro look. And at first I saw her and I was like, man, she really looks out of place and like really weird. And then I was like, you know what? If I was her age at that time, I would have dated her. That's how this would have gone. I was like, that weird person who doesn't look like they're from this era.
Yes. Yeah. She's your type.
So the other thing that I want to mention, and just going back to Linda Hunt briefly to celebrate the amazingness that is Linda Hunt, who, first of all, she really found her look after this era by doing that like bob haircut and everything. But also, she followed up this movie with another amazing classic performance, the Richard Grieco If Looks Could Kill.
Oh, yes.
I always expect when I see her grab her necklace and pull it off, and it's like this whip.
Oh, wow. I forgot about that. I forgot she was in that.
Oh my God, she's so good. She's the villain.
Well, yeah, now I remember her and like Roger Rees.
Yeah, I think so. So Dan, Kindergarten Cop, what would you do?
Oh, wow. Okay. What would I do? The problem with, so, I mean, I think at this point a sequel isn't happening, like a real sequel. And I don't know honestly, I don't know what you would have done with a sequel at the time that wouldn't have just been like this movie is kind of, as good as it is kind of built around this concept of we're taking a tough guy and there were some other people up for, like Patrick Swayze was up for Bill Murray, I think, was considered.
Right, I saw Bill Murray, yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been very different.
But taking and I just with Arnold, like that's the right person, because I think this movie was sold around that juxtaposition of Arnold, the Terminator, and the beginning of the movie very much reflects that. And you have to remember at this point, he really had only done one movie that wasn't action. I want to think if he had done a movie that wasn't rated R. Other than Twins.
Right, yeah. Which is another movie that is sold on the juxtaposition.
Right, of Arnold Schwarzenegger next to a smaller person.
On the poster.
Well, I feel like that's what they were like kindergarten. They were like, well, wait a second. What if we surrounded them with like 20 Danny DeVitos? And
yeah, right. And one of them talks about vaginas all the time.
Yeah, I would have loved.
There's a moment in the in Kindergarten Cop 2 where one kid says like, my sister has a vagina, and it's like, you don't understand why it was funny the first time.
Now it's weird. Now it's just weird.
They established the fact, yes, then it's just weird. They established the fact this kid's dad is a gynecologist, and so that's why he's always talking about anatomy.
My dad is a gynecologist, and he looks at vaginas all day long.
It works. They justify it. It's great. Yeah. Plus, he's tiny and he's adorable. So,
right.
So what would I do with it? I first of all, I would love to just totally see a spin-off of prequels detailing like the rise of the Crisp crime family, the Crisp,
right. You get the mother-son
empire
story a little bit more.
And yes, there would be like the matriarch of the family would be Cookie Crisp. So I want to know like who was Colin Crisp's father? Like what did he do? I wish like Peter Fonda was still alive to play Colin Crisp. That's who I picture as like Colin Crisp's father, is Peter Fonda.
Really?
I don't know why it popped into my head, Peter Fonda. Because it's kind of like it's the hairstyle without the ponytail. So
okay, yeah, all right.
No, like a limey, like a late '90s Peter Fonda, like limey Uly's Gold.
So I'm thinking, and I don't know if the ages would really match up, but I guess it depends on what year you would do it. But I love Albert Brooks in Drive. Seeing him play like a real mean bad guy, I could see him doing it.
Wait, Albert Brooks as Daddy Crisp,
yeah,
Papa Crisp. Yes.
Papa Crisp.
Yes. So really the only thing I would do with this other than I don't think I'd even do a remake because what's the point? What are you going to...
Well, and that's another thing about Kindergarten Cop 2 is that it shouldn't be labeled as a sequel with the 2 after it because there's no connection to the first one. It really just is a remake.
Right. I think the only other thing I would do with it is try to adapt it into a series. Mm-hmm. And have it where it's like over the course of the season. And you could even, I mean, it would be kind of funny. You could do like different, it wouldn't have to be same things, but it's like just different stories of cops who have to go undercover as teachers. And like kind of what they experience, what they get into. And I mean, I don't think you're not going to set everything up with like, okay, well, I'm going there to be the cop and my partner here is going to be the teacher and food poisoning. Looks like I'm the teacher now. I think it would have to be a little more deliberate, but I could see some type of series with Kindergarten Cop. Or based on that concept of the cop going undercover.
Also,
in the
school. It doesn't matter whether it was Kimball or Phoebe. It was still going to be a kindergarten cop either way. So it doesn't necessarily need to be like the big bulky macho guy,
right?
Juxtaposed with the little children. It could be, somebody who looks like more of your traditional kindergarten teacher.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think there does need to be some aspect to it of like, because the thing with O'Hara was she had some teaching experience. So
right, Phoebe O'Hara. I never mentioned her last
Phoebe
name.
O'Hara.
Yeah.
And she's so amazing in the dinner scene when she
pretends to be his sister.
Becomes his sister, Ursula, and she just like dives in with the whole menu and like patting the waitress's arm is like good arms.
Yeah,
so good. But the thing is, you're not going to. If you were going to do it, I would trust one person, Jason Katims. Because the guy has a gift. He can adapt. He can take a movie and take the essence, something that makes that movie special, and give it.
Give me an example.
Parenthood.
Right. Okay. Oh, right. Because you're talking about doing it as a series.
Yeah.
You're talking about doing it more along that kind of mood, that vibe.
Well, okay. Maybe not. All right. Maybe not that. Maybe not quite that mood. Because I also wouldn't just want it to be, okay, well, here's the movie and we're just going to repeat all the jokes episode after episode. It would have to be different somehow. So I don't know necessarily how it would be. I really don't think anything needs to be done with this. I think Kindergarten Cop can stand alone. People, I think, remember it fondly. It holds up, I think, really well.
It holds up great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things there's a lot of things that watching it now, you kind of have to push. There's like the scene with Zach Sullivan where he's like smashing the cars together and the kids are all calling him a poo-poo face and a poo-poo head.
Right.
And in 2020, you're kind of thinking about like, oh God, I hope this kid doesn't become, like so many of these kids who feel like outcasts and eventually go and shoot.
That right. I mean, 1990 is a time before that was what it is now.
Yeah. I mean, it's pre-Columbine. So
yeah.
So you see it. And on the other hand, what's scary about that is as I'm sitting there and I'm seeing how easily like Crisp can kind of sneak into the school, I was thinking about it and I'm like, yeah, someone could kind of get into, I mean, not these days, but like it wasn't.
Well, he's established that he is a parent who is scouting the school out
right
for his kid because they're moving to Astoria.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Yeah.
He establishes that there is a reason for him to be there. Yes, nowadays schools have different security measures, but he has his story.
Mm-hmm. You know what I wonder? the father who wanted to buy the racetrack for his kid. I'm like, was that kid in Dominic's class? Like, which, like, why don't we see him later? Does he not live in Astoria?
Oh, like at the town fair? Oh, wait, the town fair is the same day.
Is that the same day? No, that's the day before the...
No, I think it's the same. No, it's the same day.
It's the same day as what? Oh, as Crisp.
When Cullen goes to the toy store to get a gift for Dominic, that's the day of the school fair, because that's the day that Kimball tells Joyce that he's a cop, and then the next day is yeah. I don't know. No.
So, that's what I was talking about with Crisp, because then he sneaks into the school to set the fire, because that's not the same day that he goes in as he does have to sneak in. Before. He does sneak in. But talking about that scene where they tell her, and Pamela Reed's amazing acting in it, there is that one line.
We're not who you think we are.
Every time she says it, I was just like, that is like made for the trailer, but not the trailer for this movie. It's for trailer for another movie.
Yeah, I feel like her character would not have said it that way.
Yeah.
Because they formed a bit of a relationship. Like, she knows that there's a better way to probably go about that.
Yeah. So, I'm not Austrian.
Hey, John, you tell her. I'm gonna stay out of this.
Yeah. So, I always found that line amusing, and even though it doesn't fit tonally and it doesn't really fit her character, love the way she says it.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, no, it's great. She's awesome.
Yeah.
So I did have an idea for a sequel. Not to say it's a good one or that it should happen, but it's, as we said on our last episode, a thought experiment. So, in my sequel, Kimball and Joyce are happily married, retired, and still living in Astoria. Dominic lives with them still and has severe PTSD from his childhood experiences. Kimball hears from the elementary school principal that the parent of one of the kids in the kindergarten class is running drugs and is using his son to unknowingly transport the drugs in his backpack through his after-school program. Your jaw just dropped.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. So Kimball needs to come out of retirement, find the kid, and put an end to his dad's operation, all with the help of his stepson Dominic, played by Chris Pratt. His son-in-law.
Real life
son-in-law.
Tying it in. Yes.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I was just like, how do you get Kimball, who's, 70? Like, how do you, in his 70s, like, how do you get him back in the mix? Because it's like, this movie, or what's great about Kindergarten Cop is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, that is what makes it so watchable and so memorable, is just like his performance. And when I watched it the other day and I saw the beginning and like how he has got like a beard and he looks like all scuzzy and stuff, I was like, man, like I just forget about that. And then you see the way that he transforms into the kindergarten teacher, and it's just like, there he is.
Yeah.
There's our guy. There's our boy.
And it's your boy, Arnie.
It's your boy.
I'm a big fan. I've now bought 3 of his t-shirts. So
there you go.
I'm a big fan of Arnold and Whiskey and Lulu.
Yeah.
So
Whiskey and Lulu would definitely be in the Kindergarten Cop sequel.
Well, and it's funny because when I saw, when like Kathy Moriarty comes in with the donkey, and I'm like, is that Whiskey or Lulu? No, of course it wouldn't be.
Right.
But generally speaking, Arnold, his movies kind of all started that way, or had that scene where he was, pursuing someone. And I mean, how many malls has Arnold fought in? Like both, like Terminator 1, Terminator 2, Commando. I forget.
I want to say there's a mall scene in Last Action Hero. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm mixing them all together.
I don't remember, but yeah, you really can't have it without Arnold. He's the centerpiece, and I feel like there's something about him that I almost always believe. I think the movies where I don't like him as much are the movies where I don't buy it, where I don't buy it from him, and I know that that's weird to say, but like in Terminator, he's very convincing. I think it's one of the problems I have with Last Action Hero sometimes is some of the things it feels a little not him.
I like Last Action Hero. I think that some of the movies where I'm just kind of like whatever are more like Eraser or there was like another one around that time where I was just like The Sixth Day,
End of Days.
End of Days, yeah, just like all of those, I'm just kind of like, all right, they're starting to all blend together. But then there's ones like even Commando, I believe him more in.
Yes.
And his like relationship with his daughter. And like there are those moments where he just really, really shines. And even in The Last Goodbye, I believe his character. I believe that he is just a hired thug that is there to do whatever the boss tells him to do.
I believe that he has a lot of muscles.
He has so many muscles.
And they're very big. They are very big.
So, he's really wonderful. Even the bad movies are enjoyable. The good movies are like, I don't know, they're so memorable. True
great.
Lies, like we could talk about Arnold
Total
Schwarzenegger movies all
Recall.
day.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Big fan of Arnold's, and also like love what he's doing with his charity, the After School All Stars, and I know he's got something going with Edward Norton.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I forget exactly what it is, but he and Edward Norton are.
But my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie is probably one that I've already mentioned on this episode, Dave, where he has a cameo as himself. Talking about good health practices. Gotta love old Arnold Schwarzenegger and Dave. The Charles Grodin classic.
He stops Kevin Kline from eating a donut, if I remember correctly.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yes,
you do remember correctly.
Excellent. Wonderful.
Let's talk a little bit about desserts. What you don't want to do is eat donuts. No donuts. Thank you, Arnold.
So, I don't know, Dan, anything else you have to say about Kindergarten Cop?
It's
not a tumor.
It's not.
It's not a dog. It's a ferret. This movie has so many amazing lines.
It's my ferret. How does the ferret not make itself known until they are on the drive from Portland to Astoria, which seems to take their entire travel day seems to take longer than it should because they eat breakfast on the plane and then it seems like it's the middle of the night by the time they get to Astoria. And I feel like the LA to Portland to Astoria trip is not quite that long. So, although she was very sick, She's
a lot of stops along the way. Yeah. Astoria is about 2 hours away from Portland on a good traffic day.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful, and you get to see some Cannon Beach in the background with those beautiful rocks that are famous from the Goonies.
Iconic.
Yeah, iconic.
Yeah.
So that's John. What do you have to say? What do you think? Would you be your daughter is, she'll be kindergarten age. Would you want her to have Mr. Kimball as a kindergarten teacher?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh,
she needs to learn some discipline. She needs some structure.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, my
I'd love to see how he would handle her.
You're soft. I'm not a policeman. I'm a princess. That would be cool.
That's so good.
Yeah, wonderful. I don't think there's anything else that I have to add.
Well, if you, our wonderful listeners, have anything you want to add, send us an email, ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com.
And hey, don't forget to shout out your favorite teachers who have made a difference in your lives. I, for one, aside from the cinematic teachers who have influenced me, like John Kimball, I got to shout out Eileen Daknowitz and Susan Rivkin and Ed Roberts, who are 3 teachers I had in high school who have been an influence ever since. So
I guess if I had to shout out one teacher, it would actually be a college professor, Dan Friedlander. He taught a lot of my film studies classes, a lot of which I took because he was teaching them. There was a horror films one, a road movies one. There were a lot of really great ones that I took with Dan Friedlander. Solid dude.
yeah. So teachers,
Wore a lot of giant sweaters and sandals. Just saying.
It's college professor.
College
so
professor.
keep up the good work, teachers. Please do not play any Who Is Your Daddy and What Does He Do?
Yeah. Especially first thing. That's a little...
Yeah, that's not a good...
That's a day 3 or 4 activity.
That's not the icebreaker you want to lead off with. But
No.
John, anything else you want to add?
No, other than the fact that our next episode is another Millie De Chirico pick. Dan, do you want to let everyone know what it is?
Yes. The movie Head, starring the Monkees, co-written by Jack Nicholson and directed by Bob Rafelson. It is...
I'm excited to talk about it also because it means I get to watch it again.
Yes. And if you haven't seen it and you can get your hands on a copy or stream it somewhere, watch it because I don't think you'll see too many movies like this movie.
There's really nothing like it.
No, there really isn't.
It's extremely trippy. The music in it is, of course, amazing. And whether or not you are a Monkees fan, it is just straight up enjoyable.
It's a fascinating movie, and we'll be talking a lot about what makes it so fascinating. So very excited for that conversation.
Right on. Me too.
On that note, John, a good journey to you.
Good journey.
Police